Lewis Schiff, co-author of the acclaimed book, The Middle Class Millionaire, A Rise of the New Rich and How They Are Changing America.
According to our next guest, there is a new class of wealthy individuals in this country who are truly self-made. We are talking about people who have a net worth of between $1 and $10 million, and they have done it by hard work, not by inheriting. Joining us right now to talk about this new group, Lewis Schiff.
Thanks for having me. The middle class millionaire and the middle class, both having come from the same communities, having gone to the same schools, but with very different outcomes.
The reviews are critical acclaim for Lewis Schiff and Russ Allen Prince. The San Francisco Chronicle. Occasionally a book emerges that establishes a new reality. That strikes me as the case with The Middle Class Millionaire. The Wall Street Journal. The key to riches in America, according to Russ Allen Prince and Lewis Schiff, is not thinking like a millionaire, but thinking like a member of the middle class.
70% of our economy is driven by consumer demand. Well, we now know that 39% of that 70% is driven by the middle class millionaire, the top 10% of the nation's wealthy. This gives them a huge influence in all the demand for products and services that make up the American economy.
U.S. News and World Report. Who are the middle class millionaires? They work longer hours, take little time off, and persevere in the face of setbacks. The New York Times. The middle class millionaire offers tremendous opportunities to those who know how to accommodate him. The book abounds in examples of new services created.
We're talking about families with $1 million to $10 million in household net worth. And at 10% of America, we're talking about 9 million households. Well, according to our data, the combined household net worth of those top 10% of families is $20.7 trillion. Much more than the mega wealthy or the giga wealthy combined. What explains the difference between the middle class millionaire and the middle class? That was the beginning for us of seeing a roadmap to middle class life and a roadmap to middle class millionaire life.
Can you give us the four?
Sure. The first one's the toughest one. It's hard work. The middle class millionaire works on average 70 hours a week as compared to 40 hours for the middle class. The second is perseverance in the face of adversity. They fail more often, even though they're more successful, but in the face of failure, they get up and they try again. The third is that they make decisions in their life, especially career decisions, based on how to make the most money. As opposed to choosing careers they love, they choose careers that pay the best. And the fourth, and the one that's spun into a lot of other information in the book, is that they are very networked in their community. They're extremely plugged in and connected, whether that's that they offer their opinion or whether they report that people ask for their advice all the time. And where do these middle-class millionaires live? They live all over the country. We have identified 33 states where you will find the greatest penetration of middle-class millionaire households. Well, the research for where the middle-class millionaire lives doesn't come from our research. It actually comes from the National Trust for Historic Preservation. The National Trust for Historic Preservation has provided us with a map, and they call this map the Tear Downs Map. And it describes the 33 states and hundreds of communities where teardown activity is happening at its highest rate. In fact, they say that these communities have such a rate of teardowns that the very character of these neighborhoods are threatened to disappear entirely. That's where you'll find the middle-class millionaire, moving into these communities and changing the very face of it. That's the big picture of the middle-class millionaires. To talk about a smaller version of this, I want to tell you a story about a little town called Westport, Connecticut. You see, the new family coming in has a very different need for the house, and so they've decided to tear it down. They love the community of Westport. They love its middle-class values. They love its good schools. They love its safe streets. But that modest ranch house that the Carters use so well simply is no longer sufficient for their needs. Carters had 2 boys, and the Zacarias, the new family moving in, they have 3 children and a 4th on the way. At the Carter household, Mrs. Carter stayed home and she ran the house. While the Zakaria household, both Mr. and Mrs. Zakaria work, and Mrs. Zakaria actually travels much more than Mr. Zakaria. They have a housekeeper who helps them run the house, so they need more bedrooms, they need more cars, and more garage space. Bottom line, that house does not work for the Zacarias. For Liam, this is a moment of confusion. What's wrong with our community, he says. Why can't they come here and live the way we live so well? For For the Zacarias, they're just doing what comes naturally. They're successful people. They're ambitious. If they don't like the way something is, they change it. They value everything that Westport has to offer them, except they need a different kind of house. This clash between the middle class and the middle class millionaire is taking place all over America. Well, one of the areas that I've been surprised by is when I'm in an audience of business people, and we're talking about the business of serving middle class millionaires, and we're talking about how the middle class millionaire is a harbinger for the rest of the middle class, and we're talking about it in terms of product development and community development and service development. But the conversation naturally turns to the people in the audience who are probably middle-class millionaires themselves or aspire to be them. And then we get into some of the more values-based conversation that the middle class and the middle-class millionaire brings into greater focus. One of the conversations that I think is fascinating is the notion of whether or not, as a parent, you've thought about the implications of being a person who's accumulated wealth. What does it mean to your children? Are your children inheriting the work ethic or the wealth ethic? And you start to see the parents in the room start to get a little nervous. And now we've moved completely out of the business conversation into your own lives. And we have had a chance now to go back to the press and go back to the market and say, we tested them in good times and bad times. Here's what they have to say right now. And they had great advice, actually, and it was hard advice. It was work harder. It was network harder than ever. Use the people around you more than ever. What it wasn't was, let's keep our head down and wait for the bad time to go away. It was, maybe my competitor is struggling. Maybe this is the time for me to buy my competitor. It was real information, really kind of hardcore information about what you could do right now. So what's happening between, as part of the population gets wealthier, what happens to the rest of people? Dr. Lawrence Summers, a former Treasury Secretary, describes that there's a more efficient marketplace taking place in America for wealth creation, meaning there are certain skills that create wealth, and people who have those skills or talents or attitudes are creating wealth faster. If you don't have those talents or attitudes, you're out of the line of money. You're not going to create wealth. One of the conversations I like to have with people is the notion that creating wealth isn't for everybody. There is a way to live your life that doesn't have to do with creating substantial wealth. So I think one of the goals for the book was to show people that there are things that create wealth that are not the commonly instructed things. We're taught if we just get our bachelor's degree, maybe we get our master's degree, if we join a good company, wealth will come our way. That's not happening anymore. And so people are going to have to learn that the kinds of things they like doing might not put them in the line of money anymore. I think an ideal outcome from someone reading this book or considering the research is to say, I now know what it takes to be wealthy, and I'm not interested in that. And so now let me think about what else my life can be. And I think that that's a hard thing for people to embrace, but that's the way the world is shaping up. Whatever path you choose, whatever choices you make, I want to wish you the very best of success in your journey, and thank you so much for coming out today.
Lewis Schiff.